Have you ever wondered what living your true, authentic life would be like? And doing so fearlessly, undeniably, and unapologetically? Is such a way of life even possible? My answer is yes, it is. Welcome to my podcast, From Fearful to Fierce. My name is Sarah Odogrosfordna, and I will be using this space to share simple, easy to implement tips on how to become the best version of yourself by living authentically, unapologetically, undeniably, and fearlessly. From Fearful to Fierce is based on my FFTF trilogy, which is available on Amazon, by the way. A series on the importance of knowing, accepting, and loving one's self. So, whether you are struggling with imposter syndrome, self doubt, or just looking to level up your confidence game, this podcast has got you covered. So, get ready to take on the world one fearless step at a time as this podcast unravels and tackles some of the issues that prevents us from becoming the best version of ourselves. Once again, I'm your host, Sarah Odogrosfordna. Are your strengths working for you or against you? That's the topic of today. And before I go into it, let me tell you a short story. Some time ago, I went on a date with someone. I was actually looking forward to it because we had talked and he seemed like a decent enough person. And so I was excited about the date. And so we planned to meet somewhere and just go for a walk. I like going for long walks, so I thought it would be good to go for a walk. And he agreed also because he was an outdoorsy kind of person and he thought also that the walk would be good. When I saw him in person, I liked the look of him and seemed like a smart guy. And we went off on our walk. And from that point, it sort of like went downhill because this person just began to talk and did not just stop talking. He talked and sometimes he would ask me a question, and in the process of trying to respond, he would sort of like cut me off. I don't think he was doing it to be impolite. Maybe he didn't even notice, but he was very excitable. And I guess he just wanted to get across what he wanted to tell me. But it was a hot day, and at some point I became a little exhausted. Some of the things he told me about himself were quite interesting. His job was quite interesting. And ordinarily, I would have loved very much to get to know him and maybe have a second date. But when I considered the talking, like we went for a walk for about 2 hours and the talking just didn't stop. And at that point, I said to myself, okay, Sarah, I don't think I can do this a second time. It's a bit much. And then the funny thing was that after we said goodbye, I was not rude. And I began to think about my own self, to apply what I had seen in him to my own self. Because I am a talker myself. And when I get excited about any topic or situation, I tend to talk quite a bit. The ability to express myself is part of what I see or I perceive as my greatest strength. But what is strength? Your strength is supposed to make you better. It's supposed to make you a better person. It is supposed to empower you. And so, what happens when your strength begins to work against you rather than for you. After I met with the person, the date that day, I began to ask myself a question. I said, Sarah, you like to talk, but has that power in a way become your weak point, your weakness? When you recognize what your strengths are, the next step is to use that strength to not only make you a better person. So I was asking myself, I said, well, granted that your ability to express yourself without restriction by anyone is your strength. But the thing is that any strength that impedes your progress is actually a weak point. And so I began to ask myself, is the ability to express myself, is that still my strength? Is it still working for me? Because when one talks about becoming the best version of oneself, one should be willing and ready, or must be willing and ready to look at one's self in the mirror, take off the tinted glasses. And by tinted glasses, I mean be willing to see ourselves the way one really is, the way one appears, rather than the way one wishes that one were. But please don't get me wrong. I am not in any way saying that my voice is not still my strength, or that going to let go of that strength anytime soon. I'm just saying that when you put something out as your strength, it is necessary for you to go back every now and then to vet that strength, to make sure that it is actually still a strength and not a weakness. And most importantly, to make sure that it's continuing to work for you, because really, ultimately, your strength is supposed to work for you. There's something that Socrates used to say. Socrates was the Greek, very renowned Greek philosopher. I used to say that, and I paraphrase here, that a life that is not examined constantly is really not worth living. And so if you take something to be your strength, and then you don't look back every now and then to see whether that strength is still your strength, without realizing it, it might actually become your weakness. And it actually works the other way around as well. Sometimes we look at something and we say, this is my weak point. And we think because it's weak point is negative. But sometimes the weak point, depending on how you look at it, but especially on how you handle it, can actually become your strength. And what you think is your strength or your strength can actually become your weak point if you don't constantly and regularly. As for my date that day, I think for him, he thought communication was one of his strongest points. He even mentioned that at one point in our conversation, which is not a bad thing. So the lesson here is that any strength that impedes your progress or growth is actually a weakness. And so my question as I end this episode today is, are your strengths, what you consider your strengths, are they working for you or against you? Thank you for tuning in. Once again, this is From Fearful to Fierce by Sarah Udo Grosswagner. Until next time, keep striving to become the best version of yourself. Live intentionally, be unapologetic, be bold, be fearless. Before I forget, don't forget to subscribe to my podcast, like the different episodes and press the notification button so that when I bring out new episodes, you'll be notified. Thank you very much. Until next time.